it's Anja here. I'm back with another video for Ophelia Talks, and today I am going to show you how I have crocheted these 40 squares together. I started on one point and I finished there as well. I did it in one continuous join, so there's only two ends to sew in, your starting and your finishing end. And look at this beautiful little line that you get around every square. I really like this. Now, you know I like the single crochet together, and that gives you that effect as well, although the single crochet does stand up a little bit more than this, but this is just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, I really like the effect. I was going to show you the tutorial of how to put them together with these squares, but like I said, I am so in love with this. I just kept going and going, and without knowing I had put all my squares together. So these squares are going to be for a skirt. I have talked to you about this skirt in a previous video, and there will be one for the next video as well, how I'm going to finish it. But this video in particular is going to be about the continuous join and how to get this lovely little edge. So as I said, I've used up all my squares, so I had to make new ones. So I've made these 4 little squares, and those are the ones that we are going to join now. Obviously, if you're doing a blanket, you will have a lot more squares. I had a lot more squares, but with doing these 4, this will give you all the information you need to do it bigger as well. So let's get started. If you are new to my channel or you haven't yet subscribed, please find the red subscription button and click on it. It is free. You will then see a bell sign. Click on that too, so you are notified of every new video I upload. You can also find links to my social media right above that. So here I have my 4 squares. I have a lightly coloured joining yarn, so you would be able to see it well, and I've got my 3.5, which is what I always use. So the way to go about this is to lay out your squares as you want to join them. So if you noticed in my previous video, I put them out and I took a picture. And that picture I just kept on referring back to that, you know, for which next square I had to use. So you start in the top right hand corner, then you work your way to the left, and then you go down, you come back. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to do a slip knot and put my hook in it, and let's get started. I am just going to start as if I'm doing another round of granny clusters, but only on 2 sides of my granny square. And that so you need to finish your squares according to what you want them to be, and then you will join them with one continuous join and using the one color, so one big ball of yarn to join all the squares. So you need to be aware of that and make sure that you can just use the same color to put them all together, like I did in my design here. Okay. So I have just done my corner as I usually do it. So here I am doing just granny clusters with double crochets, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, those are double crochets in American terms. These are called trebles in UK terms. There we go. There comes my my wool as well. Right, so now we're in the last corner that we are going to do. So we only do half a corner. So now what we do is we are going to chain 1. You're going to sort of turn your work, and you're going to take your next square, and we are going to go up along the square while attaching it to the previous square. So let's get started. I'm going to do a double crochet just like we normally do into that corner there, because that's where I started before. There we go. So exactly the same. Now this is where the part comes in, where we are going to be making those lovely little ridges. So what you need to do now is pull up your loop, take your hook out, go back to the previous cluster, not the chain, but the first stitch here. Put your hook in there, and then take your loop, put it round your hook, close it, and pull it through. And now we are ready to start our second double crochet for our cluster. Again, pull up your loop. Now you go in to the next stitch here, to that middle one, because we've just done the middle one on this side. So you go to the middle one on the other side, you pull your loop closed round your hook, and you pull it through. Yarn over, next double crochet of the cluster, pull up your loop, go to the last stitch on the other side of the first cluster here, go under that V, put the loop round your hook, pull it closed, and bring it through. And now we have done the first cluster. Now we are going to go into here to do the second cluster. There we go. And once again, pull up, insert, loop, loop round, loop round, pull through, and you're ready. Next one. Pull up, back into that middle stitch there, pull it through, then yarn over, same thing again, last stitch, pull up into that last stitch, there we go, and we pull it through. Right, so I've now done 2 clusters, and as you can see, that little ridge is starting to appear, and this is how you are going to continue doing your double crochets, double crochet clusters better, and your loops pulled through each time through the top of the stitch on the other side. Yes, you might think, oh no, I have to take out my hook each time, put the loop back round. But just think about it, there are no ends to sew in, okay? There are lots and lots of advantages to this, okay? First of all, there are no ends to sew in, apart from the starting and the finishing. Second of all, look at that gorgeous little ridge you get in between your squares, okay? So yeah, there is nothing, to me, there are nothing but advantages, okay? Right, now that I've tried to convince you, we have arrived at the corner. So I have just pulled my loop through there. Now I'm going to do a chain. Then again, same thing. I'm just going to go into the corner space. I'm going to pull the loop through, and I do another chain. So you do your 2 corner chains as usual. You do 1 chain, then you pull the loop through, and then you do another chain. Okay, so you've done the 2 chains, but you've done a loop through in between, and then you start with doing your normal granny clusters again, because obviously we have nothing else to attach to here. Now, if you have a bigger blanket, obviously, you are now going to repeat what I have just done. Okay, so once you start going down here again, you then work to the end of that square, and then you bring up the next square and you attach it, right? So just as I have done just now, that is what you will have to keep doing. This is what you'll keep repeating. Okay, don't forget to do that little chain here in between. It will disappear a little bit, or it might just hang out a bit, but we'll need that later on. Okay, so if this square is the last one of your round, of your row, you are going to do the following. So once again, yes, we have to work our way down to the corner. Why is it that when you're filming, there we go, the yarn always plays up? Okay, so you just have to pretend that this is a long row now, and that I have lots and lots of squares done. And so now I have made my way all the way down, right? There is nothing more to add to this row, it's done. And I am going to do a corner as usual. So 2 chains and my cluster. And then you just work your way all the way back. And all you'll be doing is clusters. You're not going to attach anything, you're just going to do your clusters all the way to the end of the line, all the way to there, to that corner. So now I am doing a corner, okay, and to make sure it is going to look like a corner, that we have a sort of a little opening there. I'm untangling my yarn as I speak. We are going to do a chain as we normally do in our corner. Then we would do a second chain, but we are not going to do that. We are going to find the chain that's in here, or yes, the little chain. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not, but if you haven't done it, you'll notice that it's more difficult to get in there. So I just try and pick up 2 bits of yarn, whichever way I can, and you do a slip stitch. Look, and this has made our corner. Same thing on this side. So we've done the slip stitch, we do 1 chain, and we start working our way along the square again. Okay, so that's what you will need to do with that little chain that you do when you get to the bottom there, and you turn and you take another square and you turn back up. So we are now nearly at the end here, and we are going to do the same thing as we did previously. So here we are now ready to start adding the next square on. So I'm going to chain, I'm then going to turn my work, and I'm going to bring my next row. So this is row 1, and now we start row 2. Same thing, into the corner, yarn over into the corner, do a double crochet, and same thing, look, pull up your loop, not into the chain but into that first stitch, put your loop around your hook, pull it closed and pull it through, and we do the second double crochet of that cluster. Again, take the loop off, go into the stitch and pull the loop through, and once again, there we go, pull the loop up, third stitch, loop round, pull closed, pull through, and off we go into the next cluster, the next location for our cluster. And I have to say, I did those 40 squares in like 2 evenings, and I didn't even, I was watching TV as well. So it does go quite quickly. In the beginning, you tend to forget to do the loop through. But I found that once I concentrated properly on it and I was off, I just did it. So it does become a little bit of a habit, as with anything with crochet. So just persevere. For the first sort of row, I really had to, because it was 10 squares, I had to sort of think about it. But then all of a sudden it just went. Because you find your own way of doing it, with pulling up the loop and then pulling it close around my hook. So that sort of made it quite easy. Look, and then I pull and it's round, and that sort of made it a little bit of a repetition thing, and it worked quite well. So I have now nearly made it to the corner. And my ball is now on the floor. Oh, you put everything ready so carefully, and then once you start, never mind. There we go. Okay, so the 3rd stitch to be done, and you find your 3rd stitch here. There we go. And we are going to do the same thing as before. So we need to do, normally we do 2 chains, so we do 1 chain. Pull up your loop, go into the corner, pull the loop round your hook and bring it through, and you do your next chain. Then we are ready for the corner. So 2nd part of the corner, and off we go again. There we go. Look, I have already attached 3 squares, and there's, only this end yet. Isn't it amazing? I am so thrilled with this. And so off we go again. To the end. I'm glad these are short sides. I can keep talking. Right? So here we are. And this means we are now ready for a chain. Turn your work. Get your next square, and off we go again. So yarn over into the corner, do your double crochet. Now we are ready to pull up into that 1st stitch. If you're not quite sure, make sure that you check it later on, because sometimes I did do this. I went into that one and then it didn't tally up anymore, so I had to just undo those. But make sure you are skipping that 1st chain and going into the 1st stitch where that chain is coming out of. Okay, and here we go again, and you just keep going. And yeah, like I said, I am really liking the effect. Does it take longer to put the squares together like this? I don't know, because if you do the joining method like I did with my Cath Kidston blanket, I suppose, you're cutting off your yarn, you're starting again, plus then you also have to take into account that afterwards you still have to do all those ends, and that is something that you're not doing now. So I am very, very pleased with this, and it went really quickly, and I quite enjoyed doing this. There we go. So you work your way back up, finding the corresponding stitch for each stitch. First one of the cluster in the first stitch, second one of the cluster in the second stitch, and third one of the cluster in the third stitch. There we go. Then we do the corner, so we're doing a chain, we pull up, go into the corner, and you pull your loop closed and you bring it through. Then you do a chain, because that's for your next corner. But what I do then is I also attach it to this side here. So I've done my chain, I come out of my loop, I go into this corner, I take the loop and bring it through. And this way you are, sort of doubly sure that it's attached properly. There we go. And I do my corner. No, I just forgot to attach it then. So out with the hook from the loop, into the stitch, into the first stitch, pull it around the loop and around the hook and bring it through. And the next stitch. There we go. Voila, and into the next cluster. Nope, that's a little bit too big, this loop here. Okay. And you keep going until you run out of squares, until you've attached all of them. And then you will notice that two sides are not yet done. And we'll have a look at that in a moment. There we go. So once again, we've made it to the corner. So we're doing our one chain, pulling it through, and we do another chain. And then, as you can see, we are going to have to do this side, and all along here. And yes, indeed, your blanket is finished. So if you have more squares, obviously, connect them all in. But I was only doing a 4 with in this tutorial, because that's really all you need to know, basically. It's always the same thing. You always repeat the same process of here. So you repeat this one, down and up, down and up, down and up, down and up. So you keep doing that for all the squares in the round. Then once you've done the last one, you come down and you do all the way back. Then you come back with your next round here, and of course you start interconnecting at the top, and you do this one as well each time, and you interconnect at the top because obviously it is there, it wasn't there before. So, and this here, we now just keep going as we were doing normal granny squares. So this could then be your first row of your border, basically, which is already incorporated in your joining process. So once you've done that, you can do another couple of rounds around that, and your blanket will be finished. And all that still just with, yes, the beginning and the end. and nothing else. Not 2 ends per square. We've come to the corner, chain, find 2 bits to go under, do a slip stitch, chain, and go into the next corner and finish that corner off by doing the second cluster. So I am convinced, basically, I am going to be using this particular, you know, why didn't I do this before? This particular technique when I do a blanket with squares. Oh well, you live and learn. But anyway, I mean, I had good fun doing the other blankets. It doesn't matter, but I just needed to find something with less ends. There we go. Okay, so I am now, I think, yeah, nearly on the end here. So I just have to do another couple of clusters, and of course now I get all in a pickle. There we go. And we do the same thing again. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I am making this really because I am making a skirt. Am I finding 2 bits here which are sensible to go under? Which I'm using these squares for. So in my previous video I was choosing the colors for my squares, so how to make the choices of what color comes next, and I have now shown you how to put them together, and in the next video I am going to show you how I finish my skirt. Now this was quite an experiment because I wasn't sure about how many squares I needed, but I think I've worked it out. Oh, well, you'll just have to see in the next video. Okay, so I've done my last square, cluster. Chain 1, and go under and do a slip stitch. There we go. And all you have to do, and even if this was you know, another round and another round because you wanted a border, you could still keep going with this same color. Obviously if you're changing colors, then that's your choice, but you could do a couple of rows of this to make a proper border, and you still only would have these 2 ends to sew in. And this will make, I'm sure, my life and lots of your lives a lot nicer. 2 ends. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next skirt making video. Bye.